Good morning, class. Welcome back to another lesson. Today, we're going to be talking about, I'm going to call it an expanded buy list. This is kind of the stuff that is either stable or it's just really, really good, and definitely things that I think everyone should own on PTCGO or IRL if you're going to jump into expand. So, I'm going to go through each card a little quickly to kind of explain why I think it should be here. Some of them are a little obvious, as in like, this is one of the best cards ever printed, you should have 4 of them. Or some of them are a little more like, it's not used that much, but the card is so good, you should have it because it's going to be used at some point in the future when you play this game. So let's start with our first one. We have Bunnelby. Bunnelby is super cool. It is currently being used mostly by control decks, but it's also incredibly good against mill, control, stall, etc. And because of that, I think everyone should have one. So it has 2 attacks. One can discard the top card of your opponent's deck. The other can shuffle a card from your discard pile into your deck. But it has this Omega Barrage ability that says this Pokemon can attack twice. So you can either, discard the top 2 cards of your opponent's deck, shuffle 2 cards from your discard pile into your deck, or do one of each. And because of that, if stuff like stall becomes very big, or you have to face a control deck, and this is a way that you can beat that deck, then I think this is a very good card. I think this is one that you should definitely own, kind of like you should have owned a Ring Ultra Prism before. Just have a Bunnelby ready to go in case the meta calls. Instructor Angru. This is thankfully in a theme deck, so you can just get it for 500 coins, or it should be pretty cheap in the per trade. But it just has an ability, once during your turn, you may draw cards until you have 3 cards. Super good. Adds consistency to a deck. It's just again, not used a ton, but it's just powerful. It will be used multiple times pretty much forever. Marshadow GX is another one that some decks, this is incredibly powerful, and some decks you would never even think of putting it in. We use it for the ability. This Pokemon can use the attacks of any basic Pokemon in your discard pile, so anything that you use, any deck that you use that uses a basic Pokemon to attack with and accelerates energy, or has a single energy attack, Marshadow is amazing. It adds a fighting type to literally every deck. Turbo Dark, add a Marshadow, bam, you now hit fighting stuff. Pikarom, add a Marshadow, it can swing the mirror a ton. Anything that attacks with basic Pokemon. So you should definitely have a Marshadow ready to go in case fighting weak stuff really comes into the meta. This one I said 2 executes. Execute is that propagation ability, and it says once during your turn. I've mentioned this before. You can actually use it as often as you'd like. So you can use propagation, Ultra Ball away the A. Use propagation again, then use quick ball. Propagation again, and then use Cinccino's Make Do. You can just keep using it over and over again. So I think you should use 2. This is a staple. Not all decks use it, but the decks that use it, they use it like crazy. If you ever played against like a Garchomp Giratina deck, they will use Propagate 6-7 times in a turn, and it just makes the deck incredibly powerful. So this is one that might be a little off to some people, but I think Jirachi EX is something you should definitely own. Jirachi EX has the ability, Stellar Guidance. When you place a Pokemon from your hand onto your bench, you may search your deck for a support card. Very good. Now, a lot of people are going to say, wait, what about Tapu Lele, which is also on the list? I think you should have both. Tapu Lele is really the go-to because it has more HP, and as long as Dragapult exists, Tapu Lele is kind of nice to have. Also, against Mew FCO, Tapu Lele is nice because they need to find a scope to get the KO. But one of the reasons I think you should own Jirachi, even though it only has 90 HP, is it can be used with Scoop Up Net. So if you have a deck that abuses Scoop Up Net, and it will exist. I know right now there's like 3 decks that use Scoop Up Net at most. Scoop Up Net is a broken card. It is 100% going to be broken in the format, and when it's broken, you want to own Jirachis, because at some point, it will be a very expensive and very good card. Because you can just use it, Scoop Up Net, pick the Jirachi up, and you no longer have that liability on your bench, but you still got your support. I said you should have a Fates Collide Mew. This is just like Marshadow GX, except this one is on your bench. So Marshadow, any basic Pokemon on the discard pile. Mew, any basic Pokemon on your bench. Very nice. Just like Marshadow adds Fighting Weakness, this adds Psychic Weakness. It's also a free retreater, and it has a very good setup attack and counter. Search your deck for a Pokemon. So you can go grab a Lele, a Dedenne, a Crobat, or something like that. So it's a good setup Pokemon, it's a good pivot, and it adds Psychic Weakness, which is always nice to have. So it's just a very good card to throw into a deck to cover some weaknesses. I said 2 Garbotoxin Garbodors. I mentioned in my Ultra Necrozma video, Garbodor is one of my favorite Pokemon. Garbotoxin is one of my favorite abilities. This is currently only used by a couple decks, Ultra Necrozma, Dragapult. Some people play Centiskorch with it, sure. The reason that I think everyone should have 2 of these cards is this ability will never be bad. The only way this ability is bad is if they change abilities to a different name, or they print something better, and they're not going to print something better. Well, they're probably not going to print something better. We'll see. We've been surprised before. ADP. Anyway, I think everyone should own 2 Garbotoxins. The ability is amazing, and like I said, it will never not be good unless they drastically change the game. This is probably a weird one for some people. I said 2 Octilleries. Octillery has an ability, once during your turn, you may draw a card so you have 5 in your hand. This is better than Silvally GX because it's a single prize Pokemon. It has 90 HP. That's a pretty big deal too, which we'll get to in a second. It's not used a ton in Expanded right now, but the ability is too good not to own some of, because it's the type of card where if it ever becomes, meta again, the format slows down just a little. This card is incredible. So I'd highly suggest getting 2 of them. You may notice there's no Crobat, there's no Bench Barrier Pokemon, there's no Dedenne. These are things I assume you already own from State. So everything on this list is purely expanded. If you don't have a Dedenne, a Crobat, you should get those. Those are super good cards. But everything on here is expanded. So let's look at the trainers. I said 2 Battle Compressors. Realistically, you probably want 4. I have a video on how amazing this card is, how to use it. It's one of the best cards in the format. It's incredibly good. Get Battle Compressors. They should be super cheap. Escape Rope. This is one that's not a staple, but it's nice to have because there are decks that will try and trap Pokemon, whether it's a stall deck using a Snorlax that has an ability that says you can't retreat, or whether it is a deck like Shocklock. If those come back into the meta, Escape Rope is one of the best techs that you can have. You can also use Switch. I prefer Escape Rope personally. You should own an Escape Rope. They come in some theme decks. I forget. 2 Field Blowers. Like I said earlier, Garbotoxin is one of the best abilities we have. It needs a tool attached to it. So you want Field Blowers so that you can counter opposing Garbotoxin. Tool Scrapper is fine, but not as good, because this one lets you discard state. So I've seen some people on the expanded ladder playing Tool Scrapper. I assume they don't have Field Blower, but you want to get Field Blower. It is just actively better because you're also able to get rid of those stadiums. Then you may say, oh, I play a counter stadium. That's fine. What if you don't have it? What if you have to get rid of your opponent's stadium and you don't have your counter stadium, but you do have your Tool Scrapper? Well, if you're a Field Blower, you can get rid of it. So Field Blower is just actively a better card. It also, again, there's theme decks that have Field. I said 2 Hypnotoxic Lasers. This is a card that isn't used a ton right now, but it's just a good card. Your opponent's active Pokemon is now poisoned. Flip a coin. If heads, your opponent's active Pokemon is now asleep. That's incredible as an item card. I don't know why they printed this. This card is so stupid. You poison, you're adding a status condition, you're potentially sleep stalling them. There's a lot of good stuff to come out of Hypnotoxic Laser. I think everyone should have a couple of them, because some decks like Turbo Dark, it's a staple. That way you can use Dead End GX. Some decks, it's a nice little multiplier that you can add in there. Okay, this is another one that I think some people are going to disagree with. I think everyone should have 4 Level Ball. Level Ball, search your deck for Pokemon with 90 HP or less, reveal it, and put it in your hand. That's it. No discard, no anything else. It doesn't have to be a basic, it can be an evolution. The reason I think Level Ball is so good, Drachi EX, 90 HP. Octillery, 90 HP. You're able to search out some really, really good consistency cards just for free. Cinccino. Also, again, it's not on the list because it's a standard card, 90 HP. There's a lot that you can do with Level Ball. I think Level Ball is a must-have, even though it's not appearing in every deck. I said 2 Nest Balls. Nest Ball's one where it's like, some people play it, some people don't, but it's again, just extra consistent. Search deck for basic Pokemon, so like a Mew FCO box that's going to need Mew from Fate's Collide, it's going to need Cramorant, it's going to need, you get a Rangaroo that has the Instructability. You can get a lot of stuff with it. I think you should have a couple of them. And again, comes in some. Rescue Stretcher. I talked about this in my Ultra Necrozma deck profile, why I prefer it over Ordinary Rod sometimes. Everyone should have at least 1 Rescue Stretcher Ordinary Rod shuffles it into your deck. This can put it into your hand. That is very, very, very powerful. I also talked about in the Battle Compressor video, Rescue Stretcher, unlike Ordinary Rod, can make a Battle Compressor an Ultra Ball. You go, okay, I'm going to Compressor away my main attacker, I'm going to Stretcher it back, or I have a dead hand, Compressor away a Lele, Stretcher the Lele into my hand, use the ability to get a... So Stretcher is just actively better for a lot of decks than Ordinary. Target Whistle, put a basic Pokemon from your opponent's discard pile onto their bench. It's so good. They discarded their Dedenne? Cool. Target Whistle, put on your bench. You already KO'd their Dedenne? Cool. Target Whistle, I'm going to go KO that Dedenne again. It's all the frustration of Mawile GX with none of the randoms. Incredibly powerful card. It's also very powerful if you are playing a wall deck. So if you're playing a deck that has like Vileplume from Burning Shadows, or a Hoopa, or a Pyroar, or like something that you cannot attack, Target Whistle lets you say, okay, I'm going to put something on your bench so I can get a prize from that. And this can actually let you win games. So Target Whistle is, it's as stupid as it looks. Like, Mawile GX is frustrating. Cool. Now let's just make Mawile GX. I said 4 Trainer's Mails. This card's incredible. Look at the top 4 cards of your deck. You may reveal a trainer card you find there, except for another Trainer's Mail, and put it into your hand. Almost as good as Jirachi Stellar Wish, but as an item. So this card is one of the best consistency cards. Pick up 4, 100%. There's some where it's like, Level Ball's debatable, Trainer's Mail isn't really debatable. You should find a way to get 4 of them. 4 Ultra Balls. This is another one, it's not debatable. Pick up 4 Ultra Balls. This is arguably the best card ever printed. Not ever, that's not true. But the best card that is like currently in the format. Discard 2 cards from your hand. If you do, search your deck for a Pokemon, put it into your hand. That's it. And you may say, oh, discarding cards can be bad. That's not true, for 2 reasons. For 1, you can use Propagation Execute. I said to buy 2 eggs. You can propagate 2 eggs, Ultra Ball both of them away. Suddenly, your Ultra Ball is actually a master. Also, a card we'll talk about in a second, BS Seeker. Discarding cards is good. You can get access to them later and expand it. And discarding cards is good because hand disruption is a very big part of winning and expanding. So if you get rid of the bad cards, you will not draw into them later. So Ultra Ball is incredibly powerful both because you can discard cards and you can search for anything. 4 VS Seekers. It's just a good card. Put a supporter card from your discard pile into your hand. Incredible consistency. I've mentioned it before, but if you play 4 VS Seekers and 1 Guzma, you suddenly have 5 Guzmas or 5 Gust effects. But you have the accessibility to also say, well, this VS Seeker could be Professor Sycamore, Professor's Research, or it could be an N, or it could be whatever. So super good card. Pick up 4, 100%. These 3, I think they're 100% gift for it. I said 2 Silent Labs. Silent Lab, each Pokemon in play, hand, and discard pile has no abilities. It's just a good card. There are certain decks that like to abuse Silent Lab at a variety of times. 2 Skyfields. This essentially gives you Eternatus's Eternazone ability, but as a stadium. This is one of the reasons why Snorlax VMAX is so good, even though Eternatus is in the same format and does it without a stadium. The stadium is totally fine. Very good. Anything that lets you break the rules is a good card. So you should definitely have a couple of them. 1 Acerola. Put a Pokemon that has any damage counter on it and all cards attached to it into your hand. I think as we get more VMAX Pokemon, the expanded format's going to move to a slightly more 2-hit KO meta. And a card like Acerola is going to be very, very, very powerful. It already is in a deck like Colossal. You abuses Acerola. We've had decks in the past that really take advantage of Acerola. It's definitely one to pick up if you don't already have. 1 Bridget. Search your deck for 1 Pokemon EX. You never do that. Or 3 basic Pokemon, put them onto your bench, shuffle your deck afterward. Not a ton of decks are using Bridget right now, but it is still the best search option we have that isn't item-based. So I think everyone should have a Bridget. It should be a very cheap card because it's been pushed out of the meta, but that doesn't mean it's not a good card still. What's next? Chorus. I said 1 Chorus. More Chorus would probably be better, though. Shuffle your hand to your deck, then draw a number of cards equal to the number of bench Pokemon, both yours and your opponent's. We have decks that have used Skyfield, which allows you to have 8 bench Pokemon. I have, on multiple occasions, drawn 16 cards with a Chorus. Yes, that is as good as it sounds. So colorless is a must-have as long as Skyfield exists. Colorless can easily draw you 10, 12, 14, 16 cards. One Faba. This is one, it's a little weird because when this was in standard format, which wasn't that long ago, it didn't see a ton of play, but in expanded, it sees a fair amount of play. So choose a Pokemon tool or special energy card attached to one of your opponent's Pokemon or any stadium card in play, put it in the Lost Zone. One of the reasons this sees play is there are some decks like Garchomp Giratina or Ultra Crozma that play 4 special energy cards, and a single Faba can really beat them up. Like if you're able to Faba and take knockouts, they're suddenly running out of energy. It's very, very, very quick. Also, the ability to get rid of tools can be incredibly important. If you're up against a Rowlet and a Alolan Executor deck and they have a Vileplume on the bench, you can't play items. You could still play something like Faba, which can be good because if your opponent has a Stealthy Hood on their Vileplume and you have a Garbodor with a tool, the ability still goes through because the Stealthy Hood shuts off your Garbotoxin for protecting Vileplume. I know, it's a convoluted thing. The Faba lets you get around that. So Faba is just a very good card. You can VS Seeker for it, and just removing special energy is good. Removing tools can be good. It's a field blower that can be used over and over again if Garbotoxin becomes a good card. So pick up a Faba. I said 2 Guzma. One of the reasons why you want Guzma over Boss's Orders is the ability to switch your active Pokemon with one of your red Pokemon. So you can get away with playing Boss's Orders and Guzma, but you should definitely have at least one Guzma. And one of the reasons for that is this is essentially a switching card for you. You notice expanded, you do not play switch. This card is literally why you don't play switch. This is your switch, in addition to your Boss's Order. So why spend 8 slots on 4 Boss and 4 switch when you can spend 5 slots on 1 Guzma and 4 VS Seekers. 2 ends, debatably more, but with VS Seeker 2 fine. Each player shuffles their hand into their deck, then draws a card for each of their prize cards. This is your comeback mechanic. This is your reset stamp, but it's also a reset stamp that's consistency early. How many times in standard format have you had a reset stamp in your opening hand, and you're like, I guess I have to day this hand? Well, with N, it's actually going to help you because you go, okay, N, I get a new hand. Yes, my opponent gets a new hand too. Who cares in the early? You're just trying to set up because you're going to always say, well, if I set up, I should be able to beat my opponent. And then late game, your opponent has 1 prize card left. You can go, all right, N you to 1, knock out your only attacker. Now what do you do? And very often the answer is nothing. 1 Pokemon Ranger. The only reason I think this is currently a staple is because ADP exists. If ADP did not exist, this card's not very good. But when ADP uses their GX attack, you can play a Ranger, and it removes the effect of their GX attack. That's pretty good. There's a single card counter to ADP, the thing that we wish we had. The reason it doesn't work in standard is expanded. We have VS Seeker, we have Jirachi GX or Tapu Lele GX, so you can find that Pokemon Ranger whenever you like. I said 1 Teammates. This is one of my favorite cards in the format. You can play this card only if one of your Pokemon was knocked out during your opponent's last turn. Search your deck for up to 2 cards and put them into your hand. That's it. If you need to find any combo pieces, all you have to do is play a Teammates after something got knocked out, go find those combo pieces, and you're good to go. Incredible in any single prize deck. Decks like Ultra Crozma loves it. Mew from Fate's Collide loves this card. You're just like, alright, cool, you knock me out. I'm going to go grab the 2 cards that let me pull off a powerful combo next turn, and we're good to go. 1 Choice Band. EX and GX Pokemon still exist. So VMAX Pokemon, this does not affect. But this has 30 more damage to your opponent's EX, but reality GX. And the only reason we want this is Tag Team Pokemon. This will show up in a lot of decks because it lets you KO ADP or Mewtwo and Mew or Garchomp and Giratina easy. 2 Float Stones, although more is probably better. It's free retreat. It's just significantly better than Air Balloon can ever pretend to be. It makes everything have free retreat. The biggest offender is our Garbodor that has 3 retreat. Air Balloon would work. Floatstone, cool, free retreat, good to go. So Floatstone, kind of like Ultra Ball, it's kind of stupid how good it is. So you definitely want a couple of these. And then I said one muscle band. Does 20 more damage to your opponent's active Pokemon. This is nice because as VMAXs come into the format, Choice Band no longer works. So Choice Band does 30 more, but only to EXs and GXs. Muscle Band does 20 more. That math can, in fact, matter. This lets Snorlax VMAX hit 320, for example, which can let you KO Centiskorch. This can add 20 more damage to Pikarom, which can then use E-Powers to hit even higher on a VMAX and potentially take Okos. So, incredibly good. Probably a bigger deal than the Choice Band, but Choice Band should be fairly easy to get hold. And lastly, the energies. There are a lot of really cool special energies in Expanded, but in reality, these two are the ones that are most abused. Double Dragon Energy. This provides 2 of any energy type as long as attached to a dragon. So Ultra Necrozma, we used it for our Metal and our Psychic. Garchomp Giratina, we can use it for whatever 2 energies they need. ADP, we can use it just attached GX attack. Very good. This card will stop being good eventually, maybe, but as long as ADP exists, Double Dragon Energy is going to be a very good card. Last one is Double Colorless Energy. This is Twin Energy, but it goes on any. So it's just actively better than Twin Energy. There's absolutely no reason not to have DC. So this is my list of these are things that I think you should get a hold of. This will take a little bit of time. Some are more expensive than others too. Tapu Lele GX is going to cost you several packs, but you should be able to get 4 Ultra Balls for some random standard format pack, for example. So I highly suggest going through. Some of these are in theme decks too. I know you can pick up an Ultra Ball, Nest Balls, and Rescue Stretcher all in that Ampharos theme deck. So check your inventory, see what you've got, and then start kind of building this collection. And then once you've built, this kind of staple core, you'll see that you can build most of the decks in Expanded. So it should help everyone kind of jump back in and really figure out, okay, what are the cards I need? I've got these, we're good to go. So thank you all for watching. Hopefully this helps a little bit to give you an idea of what are the most powerful cards and the ones you need. Remember, like, comment, subscribe, YouTube stuff. Check me out on Twitch, and I'll see you for the next class. Peace.